In the ancient age of Treta Yuga, when sages shaped the destiny of kings and gods still walked the paths of earth, there lived a revered sage named Vashistha, one of the Saptarishis, the seven great seers of divine wisdom. His hermitage stood in a forest untouched by greed or war, surrounded by serene rivers, flowering trees, and the soft echo of sacred chants. Sage Vashistha was known not only for his vast knowledge of the Vedas, but also for his humility and his unwavering devotion to truth. His ashram was a sanctuary for seekers and travelers alike. Even wild animals found peace in his presence. Yet, amidst the quiet grace of that forest, there existed one being whose divine power equaled that of celestial treasures. The holy cow Nandini, daughter of the wish-fulfilling cow Kamadhenu. Nandini was not an ordinary creature. She was born of celestial essence, blessed by the gods to fulfill the desires of the pure-hearted. Her milk could feed thousands, her blessings could summon celestial beings, and her devotion to her master, Sage Vashistha, was unmatched. She was the heart of the hermitage, the source of sustenance for the disciples, and a living reminder of divine abundance. In time, the fame of Vashistha's hermitage reached the ears of King Kaushika, a powerful monarch whose valor and ambition were renowned across the land. Curious about the sage's simple life and the aura of prosperity that surrounded it, he decided to visit Vashistha's ashram with his royal entourage. When the king arrived, he expected to find a humble settlement of ascetics, simple huts, sparse meals, and quiet prayers. But to his surprise, the sage's hermitage seemed to overflow with wealth of another kind. He and his thousands of soldiers were welcomed with warmth, and they were offered a grand feast that rivaled the offerings of royal palaces. Kaushika was astonished. How could a hermit living deep in the forest, with no treasure, no servants, and no resources, provide such abundance? He wondered about the source of such prosperity. The sage, serene as ever, simply pointed toward the divine cow Nandini, who stood grazing peacefully in the meadow nearby. Through her divine powers, Nandini had manifested every need of the sage's guests: golden vessels, fragrant foods, sweet fruits, and aromatic garlands. She had done so not out of command, but from her boundless love and respect for her master. The sight of such a miracle awakened a new desire in King Kaushika. He thought that a cow of such divine nature belonged not in a forest, but in the possession of a king, where her powers could serve the people and strengthen the kingdom. He offered Sage Vashistha countless riches, lands, and honors in exchange for Nandini. But the sage, bound by dharma and love, could never part with her. Nandini was not an object to be traded. She was divine consciousness itself, a being that sustained righteousness. Vashistha calmly declined the king's offer, explaining that Nandini's will was her own, and her service could never be commanded by pride or power. Kaushika's royal pride, however, clouded his wisdom. Unable to accept refusal, he decided to take Nandini by force. His soldiers approached the divine cow, but before they could touch her, the gentle creature transformed into a fierce manifestation of celestial energy. From her body emerged warriors, divine beings, and spirits of nature armed with luminous weapons. The air trembled with thunder as Nandini's army, born of purity and divine will, repelled the king's forces. Kaushika's soldiers fled in fear, and the proud monarch was left humbled before the power of true devotion. His weapons were useless before the strength of faith and spiritual might. Kaushika realized that his earthly power and royal lineage meant nothing before the wisdom of the sage. His heart, which had been filled with pride, now overflowed with reverence. He understood that spiritual strength far surpassed the glory of kingship. Defeated yet awakened, he bowed to Sage Vashistha and renounced his arrogance. He resolved to dedicate his life to attaining the same divine wisdom that gave the sage such power and peace. It was this transformation that marked the birth of a new journey. Kaushika, the proud king, would later become Sage Vishwamitra, one of the greatest sages in all of Hindu tradition. Meanwhile, Nandini continued to dwell in Vashistha's ashram, her divine aura nurturing all living beings around her. Her milk nourished the disciples, her presence blessed the earth, and her devotion symbolized the eternal bond between nature and spirituality. The story of Nandini and Vashistha reveals that true power does not lie in force or material wealth, but in purity of heart and steadfastness of dharma. Nandini, the divine cow, represents abundance born of virtue, while Vashistha stands as the embodiment of spiritual authority that surpasses even the might of kings. Through this tale, the scriptures teach that wisdom commands greater power than the sword, and that the universe itself bends in service to one who lives in harmony with divine truth. As time passed, the tale of Vashistha and Nandini became a sacred reminder to generations that divinity reveals itself not through conquest, but through surrender, humility, and love. The king who once sought to possess the divine learned instead to become divine himself, proving that transformation begins the moment pride bows before wisdom. Thus, the story of the sage and the sacred cow endures, a legend that celebrates the eternal truth that the strength of spirit surpasses the might of empires, and that divine grace flows not from ownership, but from devotion. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Mythology Medley. Click the bell icon for more such amazing mythological content.